Welcome into the Midstate 48 presented by Miracle Auto Group. We are into week 2 and a lot of hot weather around the area. I'm going to go ahead and bring the guys in because, let's go ahead and get this started because a lot of teams are about to have to make a decision about whether to kick off on time Friday or push the games back because of all this heat we're having. Let's talk about it for a minute.
Yeah, it's a wise decision, I think, on the part of TWSLA and the schools that are involved, moving some of those games back. And on a selfish note, I'm glad they did it too.
Yeah, as someone that's been out working in it the last couple of days, it's not great, and it's supposed to be even worse on Friday. So, be safe out there, everyone, because it's brutal.
Yeah,
Hydrate.
what little bit I was able to see, at the game I was at in week 1, and a couple highlight packages and talking to people that were at other games and stuff. Cramping wasn't that big of an issue really in week 1. Really hope that the coaches are really preaching to the kids to hydrate this week and eat a lot of potassium to keep from cramping up come Friday night.
Yep. If you're reading the little banner behind or below my name, you understand that I'm over here in East Tennessee for the week. We kind of escaped those really hot temperatures for a few days, but I'm coming back Friday and expecting 101 around 7 o'clock. Yeah, go ahead and make your face, Scott. Let's go. Go ahead. No, it's nice over here right now. It's about 82 degrees here in East Tennessee, but I'm not envying anybody that's being outside during the week, Joe, especially like you've been. So going to be interesting to see if some of these other schools push their teams back to 7:30 or 8 o'clock. It kind of harkens back to the old days where we actually had 8 o'clock kickoffs regularly or 7:30. So if you're one of those that you prefer the later kickoff, this week might be the week for you.
Very true.
Well, guys, week 1 was loaded. It was a fun-filled week, 3 nights full of football. But we kind of get back into the normal swing of things with mostly just Friday games this week. So those expecting us to be out at some games this week will only have 2. Scott and myself will be over at CPA as the Lions will host Pearl Cone. And Joe, you'll be over at Ensworth for the Tigers hosting NBA. We'll start with that one, Joe. What are you looking for out of that one between NBA and Ensworth?
Yeah, this has kind of been a one-sided rivalry game the last couple of years. I believe NBA has won 6 straight or something like that. I talked to Ethan Utley last week actually at the CPA Brentwood Academy game, and he's really looking forward to this one. They had a great week 1 win over a Union City team that, I mean, we all expect them to win that. So they're going against a 1A team. They put up 40 straight points. Defensively, they were stout. I think that carries on into this week. I think they in that long losing streak, and Ensworth continues to be kind of that top team on that side of Division II AAA. That maybe that side's not as loaded as the other side, but I think this is a team that could potentially make a run to the state championship game.
Yeah, it seems like when we talk about Ensworth, because during the regular or the preseason shows we were doing, it was about the Eastern region in D2 AAA, and now we kind of get to see where Ensworth stacks up against that group. So this ought to be a good measuring stick for them, Scott.
Well, I think NBA is still working on their offense. They only managed 1 offensive touchdown against Pearl last week, if I'm not mistaken. I think everything right now is pointing towards Ensworth being a little bit ahead of the game. With NBA, I do expect NBA to keep it close, when it's all said and done. But I think Ensworth here is, with their defense, with Mason Curtis and Ethan Utley, I think that they have a really good shot of shutting down the running game.
Camel's here.
Yeah, ultimately, we'll pick this one a little bit later, so I won't reveal that yet. But definitely like where Ensworth is at after week 1, going on the road and beating a team with unconventional offense in Union City and doing so convincingly. Not really a surprise that they did that, but still, you have to be, if you're Rock Baton, you have to be happy that your team went on a long road trip against a team like that and came out and performed as well as they did. And for NBA, we knew that they had questions. Don't know how many answers they found in week 1 against a really good Pearl Cone team. The Big Red will we'll start finding some things as week by week as we continue through the season. So it's an intriguing matchup, guys.
Yeah, and I look at what you just said about finding out some things out of week one. So I want to bring this up to you guys next. What's one thing that you learned out of week one that you didn't know going in? Scott, I'm gonna start with you with that one.
Oh, put me on the spot. One thing that I learned about week one. I'd say that one thing I learned about week one is that Gallatin is a lot further along offensively than I thought they would be. I think that they're being able to play against what I thought was a really good Hendersonville team. Really showed me a lot of what the coaching staff has done there with the Green Wave.
All right, Joe.
For me, I mean, I think we all kind of thought CPA would be the team to beat in D2 AA this year, but offensively, we just kind of didn't know what we were going to get out of the Lions. Sorry. They showed some young stars on Saturday, and Owen Cable and Reese Patterson, younger brother to Langston and Kane Patterson, his twin brother also on the Lions. So we got kind of an idea just how good this Lions offense could be, and I think they'll put up some big numbers this year.
Yeah, I'll stay with that same team that Joe was talking about, but I'll actually go to the head man in Ingle Martin. I learned that he is a legitimate top 3 coach in high school in the state of Tennessee. Especially in that second half to get his team to believe that they could come back and win that game down 16-3 at halftime, and was just dominant in that second half. You who's better than him? Creasy at Oakland maybe, and Gary Rankin at Boyd Buchanan, and other than that, I mean, he's pretty comparable with everybody else. So it was a huge showing for CPA, and it definitely made me a believer in Ingle Martin.
I'm going to stick with that. I'm going to go with CPA's defense because we knew it was good, but they put together an elite performance in the second half in order to keep Brentwood Academy off the scoreboard and come back and win that game because the Eagles were moving the ball, but the Lions defense just said no way, and they're not having it. And they're going to get another test Friday when Pearl Cone comes in, and we'll talk about that shortly. But CPA's defense, it's even better than I expected, and that's going to serve them well going forward the rest of the year. So, let's see. All right. So one more thing at close out week one, and then we'll move on. What's the most surprising thing to come out of week one for you guys? Cam, I'll start with you on that one.
Basically, the most surprising thing really is how many mistakes in total were made in week one. I mean, you expect some of them, but all the games that I was able to see part of and to go to, there was a lot of fundamental mistakes, a lot of false starts, a lot of delayed games, a lot of you're punting the ball on 4th down and you don't have 11 on the field, things like that, and you hope that gets cleaned up. But I thought in week one it was magnified a little bit more, and most of the games that I was able to watch, the team that made the biggest mistakes lost. Look at that Gordonsville Smith County game in week one. Gordonsville has a botched kickoff and then a pick 6 that results in 13 points for Smith County, ultimately the difference in the game. You expect those type of things in week one, but I thought it was a little bit more severe than what I expected.
For me, it was how much Cane Ridge grew up from the first half of their game against Mount Juliet to the second half. I mean, the Ravens ended up losing 31-28, but they looked like a completely different team in that second half. Kadarian Fletcher and Joshua Reese, I had to look up their names just to be sure. They connected 3 times. This is a Ravens team I think is going to put up some points this year. I think they're going to make a lot of noise, and it's kind of fun to see what those halftime adjustments they made that really let them get back into the game against Mount Juliet.
All right,
Well,
Scott.
I'm gonna go back to what Cam said. Was the sheer volume of yellow hankies on the field in the games I was at. but probably the most surprising one was I actually saw, I think, 3 sideline infractions called. Usually, there's just the warnings, and then they go. But the referees were doing a tremendous job of monitoring the sidelines, and the one thing that surprised me is I know that the emphasis was going to be on uh, penalizing anybody that called for a penalty, any player or coach that called for a penalty. That I did not see. But just the sheer volume of flags for any number of different infractions really kind of surprised me, because it happened at every game that I was at.
I got to echo that, because just like you said, it happened in every game and I was at, and it started Thursday night too, between like West Creek and Laverne, who probably had 20 plus penalties between them. It was a week of learning for a lot of teams as far as navigating pre-snap infractions and avoiding those infractions.
Yeah,
So
I'll add real
hopefully-
quick onto that. You mentioned the sheer number of penalties out there and the influences on certain penalties being called. I was able to speak with a referee in a scrimmage, a couple weeks ago, and they mentioned that they had 240 plus officials this year, which is the highest number Tito Vista Blaze had in several years. I was also able to speak with a couple at our jamboree, and the couple that I was able to speak with were first-year referees. So first-year referees, you got to be a little bit patient. This may be something that we see, slowly start getting better as the season wears on.
Yeah, that's a good point. And especially, it's a good thing, though, that we're getting those numbers back up, because we've had that problem the last couple of years, and that's why all the Thursday games happened last year. And if you've noticed the schedule, there's not nearly that many this year, and that's a good sign that maybe those officiating numbers are starting to creep back up to where they were, and hopefully they can stay there, because it's been a problem in the last couple of years with low numbers. But yeah, those really the biggest things coming out of week one. And Lipscomb Academy, you can see the scroll across the bottom of your screen. We've got our rankings there. Joe put those out the other day, and Lipscomb Academy is still at 1 despite the loss. Let me explain something to you. IMG did that to a lot of teams, and they're going to do that to pretty much any team in this state. So anybody that's wondering about why Lipscomb Academy is still at 1 despite being 0-1, who else is going to keep that?
They're going to do worse than that to any team in the state, Chris, and that's why Lipscomb is number 1.
I'm trying to be fair about it, Cam.
Yeah, it's just no need to panic yet for Mustang fans at all.
I don't want to draw anything really from week one, just because it's really an extension of the preseason for them. And this week is the week for them to make their statement. If they go down to Alabama to Saraland and win that game, that's what you need to know. So we'll pick that game also in who you got in this one of our top 10 this week. But before we go any further, let's hear from those wonderful folks at Miracle Auto Group who are sponsoring our show this year.
Stop dreaming and start driving.
Buy a new 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokee or Jeep Grand Cherokee L and get $6,924 off MSRP and no payments for 90 days at Miracle Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Gallatin. And get powertrain warranty for as long as you own your vehicle and VIP benefits. Make this the summer event at Miracle Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Gallatin.
Are you ready for a miracle?
As always, thanks to Miracle Auto Group for sponsoring Midstate 48 and our players of the week, which we are going to announce right now. So let's look at those finalists for the player of the week first of all. Kaiki Baker from Hillsboro, Mason Baker from Hendersonville, DCA's Wesley Gobert, Braden Grant from Riverdale, Javarian Ote from Stewarts Creek, and Seagulls Thomas Centel, who had a monster performance on Thursday night. And fans voted for Mason Baker. Hendersonville showed out in droves for this poll and for that young man to the tune of 73.2% this week. But as always, our votes also play a role in player of the week voting as well. And Cam, you took Thomas Centel.
I did. I mean, anytime that you have 7 touchdowns and your team needed all 7, they gave up 43 points. So they needed all 7 touchdowns from Centel to win that game. 500 over 500 total yards. It seemed like every time I refreshed Twitter, it was another Santel touchdown play that was being reported. So I had to go with Thomas Santel from Siegel.
Scott, you also went with Santel.
Yeah, echoing what Cam said. I mean, a great Thursday night performance and a great way to set the tone for the year to come.
Yep. Joe makes it official with his vote, Thomas Santel as well.
Yeah, I mean, 7 touchdowns, almost 600 yards of total offense in a game where they needed every bit of that. I mean, Mason Baker had an incredible game. Siegel needed every bit of Santel to win that game. So,
listen, Mason Baker would win this vote 9 out of 10 weeks. Unfortunately, Thomas Santel put up the 10th week, and that's why I went with him. And his outstanding performance is going to be enough to get him Miracle Auto Group Player of the Week voting honors for week number 1. So congratulations to Siegel's Thomas Santel as the first recipient of our Player of the Week award. I'll be stopping by there probably next week to drop off some hardware for you. So congratulations. New this year to the show, not just a Player of the Week, but a Line of the Week award too. So but the fans have this vote all to themselves. Here are our finalists for Line of the Week. It's DCA's defense, East Robertson's offense, Friendship Christian's defense, and Hendersonville's offense. And we mentioned Hendersonville because of the big numbers Mason Baker had. Friendship Christian's defense. Yeah, let's talk about them for a second. I believe the number was minus 79 yards allowed.
77.
77. And I've been thinking about the line. I've been thinking about the line for this. Like, what can we say? For those that may have ever played the old NCAA games or even Madden, it was like they had offsides turned off and was just tackling people in the backfield the whole game. That was pretty much essentially what happened.
They were playing the game on freshman mode, basically, at that point, but judging by those numbers. And let's not forget, DCA's defense held Ezo Harding to 9 total yards.
Right. I mean, another
and those
outstanding.
Two teams play to me this week.
Oh, yeah. This is going to be an outstanding game, in my opinion. But, Paul Wade always has good lines, whether it be offensive or defensive lines. He always has those big fronts, so it's going to be really interesting. Both those defenses showed out this week.
Yeah, and East Robertson's offense, let's not forget them. They had big numbers against Liberty Creek, and
they did.
Unfortunately, the voting is in, and it's a landslide for Hendersonville. 73.6% of the fans voted for the Commandos offense in that big effort at Gallatin to win Miracle Auto Group Line of the Week award for the first time that we've ever done those. So we got a special presentation for them as well, and one of us will swing by there very soon to present that. I think they're going to like the award that we've drummed up for this. It was pretty neat to put it together.
Yes, I think that I have showed it to some coaches, and they really liked it. So it's going to be interesting to see the reaction.
And to be honest, it was important to do this because we don't talk about lines enough in this game. No. We don't honor the lines enough. There's hardly ever a Line of the Week award anywhere you look, and it was really a space for us to fill. So, I mean, certainly, love to see the line get honored.
Well, you know how much I love pancakes, and speaking of which, I am going to shout out one player. Jacob Rathbone had 3 pancake blocks this week, and you guys know how I love pancakes. So I love blocking. I love those big guys, and I'm really tickled we have this award this year.
So
I just want to
say got a new award for. We've got a new award for Line of the Week, but all this talk about pancakes. Maybe we need to start one next year. The player with the most pancakes for that week gets a bottle of maple syrup to go with his pancakes.
Ooh.
You see, I like the idea. I'm just afraid I'd take the maple syrup and just have all the pancakes with it.
Yeah.
Let's steal it. Love some maple syrup. Love some pancakes. Yeah. But congratulations to the winners this week of our Players of the Week honors for the first time this year. Before we dive into who you got, let's talk briefly about this week's schedule because it's not nearly as loaded top to bottom as week 1. There are still some really good games here. The ones we're going to be at MBA at Ensworth and Pearl Cone at CPA. But others in the schedule, Brentwood Academy and Brentwood is a really good one on the schedule too. And I want you guys to kind of just weigh in real quick about that one and what you're looking for out of it.
Well, it's sort of the same thing for Brentwood Academy. Last week they had a high-flying offense that they have against a really stingy defense that CPA had. It's the same thing this week, guys. The only difference is Brentwood's offense may be a little bit better than CPA's offense. Baylor Hayes really impressed me last week with what he did at Blackman. But that's a tough matchup for Brentwood Academy, and it's also a tough matchup for Brentwood. But it's going to be a tough one.
Yeah, what Cam said, ditto. Brentwood Academy's offense against Brentwood's defense, but it's going to be a really big test for Baylor Hayes. That Brentwood Academy defense last week was really good too. So it's going to be a big test. They got playmakers on both sides of the ball. All Brentwood's going to be out there. So,
well, I expect that Brentwood Academy will clean up some of the mistakes that they made that may have cost them the game against CPA last week. That being said, Brentwood is about as solid and as evenly distributed as a team as far as their abilities go. But I think this is going to be a tight game. I really do think it's going to be probably one of the best ones on the slate.
We mentioned briefly Friendship Christian and DCA, and those two are going to tangle in Donaldson Friday night. And that's a surprising one considering where we thought these two teams might be at the start of the year, but not necessarily a surprise now.
Well, we didn't know where Friendship was going to be once Garrett Weekly graduated. And what we found out is that their quarterback, Luke Sellers, may be just as good, if not eventually better. He is that solid of a quarterback. He makes good throws and good decisions. And I think that with him back there and with Tyson Walcott, with Walcott, you've got a player on both sides of the ball. I've said it before. He's a coach on the field. He gets his guys up and motivated. They've got size, but it's going to be a test this week. It really is. I think that, DCA is, they'll always be able to run the ball as long as Paul Wade is there. And they found themselves another good running back in Wesley Gober.
Yeah, this is going to be a knockdown, drag-out fight between the tackles. Is what this one's going to be. You look at Carson Sneed at DCA plays tackle for them. You look at Carlando Barton at Friendship, plays on the defensive line for them. That's kind of the matchup, the big talent matchup, both guys having college looks and whatnot. But, you said it, Scott. The matchup of Tyson Walcott versus Gober is where this one lands for me. I do, however, like DCA, Luke Sellers has come out of nowhere here early in the season, but I really, really like Carey at DCA.
I believe this was a 1-point game when they played in the playoffs last year. Really low scoring. I think we'll get that again on Friday night. So just kind of what these guys said. It's going to be a knockout, drag-out fight.
Yep. Another one that people were interested in actually is another team going out of state, Oakland going up to Indiana to play Center Grove. Joe, you've talked to some people about this Center Grove team. What have you learned?
They're kind of in the same boat as Lipscomb Academy. They played a really good top 20 ranked team last week in Ohio. They got beat, I believe, 28-10. Can't really take away too much from it. They did lose a lot of talent from the team that won them their third straight title last year. They're still the class of 6A football in Indiana, though. I talked to Kyle Nedrep of the Indy Star, and he wrote earlier in the season that if Center Grove comes out and starts 0-4, he'll still put them as the number one team in Indiana, simply because of who they have to play to start the year, and also they have a lot of talent. They have Tyler Cherry at quarterback, Duke commit, who had a pretty big year last year. they really resemble Oakland in a lot of ways, though. So it should be a fun one up there. And winning at Center Grove, as someone who played in the same conference as Center Grove, it's impossible to win there almost. I mean, it's a very tough place to play. It's a huge stadium. It's gonna be a fun one though up there in Franklin, Indiana.
Yeah, I talked to a couple people in Indiana today about this game, and and just a little something about Center Grove is nobody wants to play them in the state. They have to go outside the state, and they had an Ohio team last week. They've got Lipscomb, and I think they've got Cincinnati Moeller, and then they've got another Ohio team before they even take the field against another Indiana team. So this is a team that has a lot of tradition, as Joe says. Very tough. It's a very tough place to play, and it's going to be a really good test here for Oakland.
Yeah, I concur. I mean, it's always tough when you go on a big long road trip like that. I believe it's about a 5-hour bus ride, something like that, for Oakland on the way up there. But this is what Kevin Creasy does, man. I mean, it just he's so good at preparing, so good at getting his guys ready to go. And he schedules tough games. 2 years ago against Lipscomb, nobody really gave him a shot in that game, and they won. But it's going to be interesting to see how well. We bragged in our previous show and last week about Oakland's defense. It's going to be how much can they slow down a high-powered Center Grove offense, a team that's going to pass it more than a lot of teams that Oakland sees this year. But this one could turn into a defensive battle.
Give me one more game outside of the ones we talked about that you're kind of looking at this week before we go to break.
Lipscomb, Saraland. The Mustangs taking on another nationally ranked team. A lot of people think this Saraland team might have been the best team in Alabama last year. That's saying a lot, considering Thompson's down there. It's going to be a big test. The matchup in this one, Caleb Beasley versus Ryan Williams. Ryan Williams is number 3 player in the 2025 class, going to Alabama. It's going to be big.
All right, Scott, Cam, you can't take Lipscomb Saraland. Give me another one.
Go ahead, Cam.
Man, there's a bunch this week that I'm very interested in. I'll go with the one that I'm most interested in, and that is Trouser County at Macon County, a game that's not in our top 10. Last week, Trouser County wins 9-0 over Livingston Academy on the road. Stat-wise, it was a pretty dominating performance. I was able to watch that game back on Sunday, and that game could have been 30-0. I mean, it really could have. Trouser County held the ball for 31 minutes in the game. Had it inside the 20 3 times and didn't score, which is not good. But that's over a 2-win Trouser County team last year. I was impressed with the way that they performed on offense this past week. And then Macon County come out of the gate really, really slow against Westmoreland. And I don't know, it was hard to get a read on if that was a Macon County team that is just starting the season, or is Westmoreland better than what we were expecting, or a combination in between. So this matchup's just intriguing to me, and it's one of those games that everybody looks at, and Macon won last year 42-0. I do think that Charleston County is quite a bit better than they were last year, but I also don't think Macon may be as good as they were last year, but I don't think they're better. So it's going to be interesting to see how much ground Charleston County has made up before they go back down and start playing 2A teams.
All right, Scott.
Yeah, the game I'm most interested in, other than that, is probably Cambridge and Ravenwood. Raptors struggled on both sides of the ball, but they were playing Alcoa, who's a stout team. They really couldn't get a whole lot going. Davis Allen had 98 of their 153 yards. But I think that Coach Hester, that may be a one-game thing. I'm interested to see if they can bounce back. Cane Ridge, they nearly pulled off the victory. I'm interested to see if they can sustain the way they played offensively against the Raptors team. So that's a game that I think that has a possibility to be a good game, but I want to see how quickly the Raptors rebound into week 2.
All right. That does it for this segment. Let's hop onto a break and hear more from Miracle Auto Group, and then we'll pick some winners.
Stop dreaming and start driving.
Big tent savings at Miracle Ford in Gallatin. Save now on new and pre-owned vehicles. Plus new inventory arriving. F-150, Bronco Sport, Explorer, Mustang, Expedition, and more. And get powertrain warranty for as long as you own your vehicle and VIP benefits. Miracle Ford, awarded 2023 Consumer Satisfaction Award by Dealer Rater.
Are you ready for a miracle?
All right, that time of the show again. Let's see if we can pick some winners. So you got. All right, Scott, take your victory lap.
I don't run. I'll take my victory spin.
There you go. There you go. Well, I was hoping you'd actually do the full twirl, but okay, go ahead, do whatever you want.
If I do, I'll end up strangling myself with the cord. No.
There was not an ulterior motive there. I'm sorry. 8-2 out of the gate. A pretty good week 1 though. Pretty good week 1 for most of us. We won't talk about Reggie's performance, but then again, neither will he.
Yeah.
So
good point.
So Scott will claim that told you so for Davidson Academy. The fans got their first ever one, in my recollection, since we've done this, and they picked Nolensville over Rockvale, which that burned every one of us. So they get their first one, and the Log Jam tied for second with Cam, Joe, and myself. So
I think I had it told. I think I had it told you so too, didn't I? Laverne over West Creek.
You did, but it's not part of our show picks, so we'll pick it there.
Oh God. So,
yeah, because if you want to
46
look at those,
again, you get a victory lap again. So just take it while you can.
Yeah,
because the rest of us are coming.
Trust me. There's nothing but week 1 for me. This is how I started.
That's pretty much the story. If you look at the told you so picks compared to second place, it's four game difference. So.
Yep. Yeah, the math checks out. It doesn't always check out, but it checks out here. So
well done, Scott.
Joe and Cam
thank you.
Joe and Cam are tied for second, and I'm not far behind, so I'm not giving up on it just yet. But all of us batting over 740 is pretty good. It's like softball type stats. So
I have no illusions. Just if you look around the table and you can't spot the sucker, it's you. Yeah. I'm feeling it. Season ain't near over.
All right. So let's get to our picks for this week. We'll start with Blackman and Stewarts Creek. The fans lopsided, going Blackman 79% of those going with the Blaze in this one. Reggie's also taking Blackman, and the rest of us are on Stewarts Creek. So I want to kind of get your guys' take on this one. Why you went with the Red Hawks here?
Well, I think that last week Brentwood exposed Blackman's rushing defense, and if you thought that Brentwood's running game was good, they've got to face Javarian Ote this week, and he torched Tullahoma for 140 yards and 2 scores and had a 83-yard screen. I just think that Blackman's still defensively working their way back. I think Stewarts Creek, just their run game's going to be too tough.
Yeah, agreed. I also, you go back and look at how close this game was last year when Blackman had that explosive offense full of Division I talent. I think it was a 3-point game. Stewarts Creek stayed in it. Oh, was it 7? It was a 1-possession game. I agree with Scott. I think Javarian Ote has a big game, and Stewarts Creek moves to 2-0 on the year.
Yeah, I concur with everything you guys have said. Ote all the way.
Brentwood Academy at Brentwood. and it's a sweep across the board for the Eagles. The fans voting 70.2% in favor of BA. We're all taking BA here, but let's just go ahead and disclose this. This is going to be a pretty good ball game, guys.
I think this is a one possession ball game. I think Baylor Hayes and that Brentwood offense flexed a little bit last week. Granted, Blackman still has a lot to fix on defense. I'm more interested to see how Brentwood Academy's offense kind of adjusts after that second half just kind of beat down CPA gave them a little bit. George McIntyre, I think you just got to let him go loose. Let him throw the ball. Let him get the ball to his playmaker, Shavar Porter, Tamari Hill. They both scored. Let them ball. Let them ball and let them do their thing. So I think it's a 7-point game.
Yeah, it's well put. I want to see BA cook a little bit more on offense for sure.
I think that I'm not willing to go. I think 7 points may be a little much. Quite frankly, I think this thing is going to be a matter of the kicking game. And when you think of the kicking game, you think of London Barones, and that's where I think that Brentwood overcomes the issues that they had last week, and London Barones is the difference in this game.
Yeah, I definitely think it's a really good game. Close until the end. I think Brentwood Academy may score late to make this thing a 14 or a 21-point game, but it's going to be a whole lot closer than that. I just don't see that offense. Even though Brentwood does have a really good defense, I just don't see that offense being slowed down very long.
Scott, it's funny that you mentioned the kickers because, this game features two pretty darn good ones in London Barones and Isaac Hayes for Brentwood.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Oh, and in all honesty, this was the last game I picked. I had to come back to it because, it depended on how you caught me at any particular time. I was Brentwood Academy, and I finally just, the more I thought about it, I was thinking long field goal to win it.
And for those wondering, yes, you heard Barones. That is the late Rob Barones' son at Brentwood Academy. Legitimate 50-plus with ease.
Yeah, let's just go ahead and put one of his kickoffs landed about 7 yards beyond the end line last week against CPA, and that's about 76, 77 yards in the air. So that's the kind of leg we're talking about when we mention London Barones.
And I may have just confirmed. Power. And I may have just confirmed that Brentwood wins this with a field goal.
But I guess you reserve the right to change that anytime. So we'll see where you stand on Friday.
Yeah.
Cambridge and Ravenwood up next, and the fans. This one was the closest vote that we had so far to this point, 51.8% with Ravenwood. Reggie's going with Ravenwood as well, but the four of us, we've gone with the Ravens.
Yeah, it's real simple for me. Both these teams had questions last week. I think Cane Ridge answered more questions than Ravenwood last week. I really like what Joshua Reese was able to do in that second half against Mount Juliet. Like the Ravens to win, this will be a good ball game.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head, Cam. I think this will be a much closer game than Ravenwood played in week 1, but I just liked what I saw out of Cane Ridge in the second half last week.
Yeah, really, this is going to come down to how much Ravenwood can control the line of scrimmage and keep the ball on the ground and keep the ball away from Joshua Reese and his wide receivers. But the Ravens had 4 turnovers last week, and if they continue to make those kind of mistakes, Ravenwood will capitalize.
Friendship Christian at DCA is up next, and the fans are going with the Commanders, 63.2% siding with Friendship Christian. Cam, you're going to join Reggie and going with the Wildcats, and then the other 3 of us are with Friendship Christian as well. So I'll start with you, Cam. Why'd you pick DCA?
A couple of reasons. I'm a sucker for the home team, number one. I always any kind of tight game, I think playing at home is worth 2 or 3 points. And ultimately, I think that's what this could come down to. As Joe mentioned earlier in the show, last year's playoff game was a 1-point game, and that was a blocked extra point, I believe, by Friendship to win that one. I've not had a chance to see Friendship in person yet, I had a chance to see DCA, and DCA was dominant, especially up front. Skill guys, Cameron Booker made a tremendous one-handed grab. But ultimately, being at home and the guy that runs the show on offense, Mitchell Carey, I just like where he's at. I think he's a little bit further along than Luke Sellers and I lean Wildcats.
Well, any team, right now, both these teams, I think, could be, it's like the game in the playoffs last year. I mean, it could honestly go either way. But if I'm leaning towards that, I'm going to take the team with the player I think that means the most to his team. That's Tyson Walcott. He's a leader on defense. He's a leader on offense. He gets his guys fired up. I think that he is the difference maker in this particular game. And as long as he's there, I'm going to go with friendship in this game.
What Scott said, I can't really add anything else on to it. I think Tyson Walcott has a really nice game and another single 3 to 7 point game. So,
yeah, it was kind of hard for me not to pick DCA being at home, but I figure Friendship Christian's defensive line is going to have something to say about that. It's whichever running back can find room against one of these vaunted defensive fronts that's going to have success on Friday. And I think Walcott will be able to do that just a little bit better. But this, guys, could be one of the best games of the week, honestly.
Yeah, agreed.
Let's go Gallatin Station Camp next up. Sweep across the board there. 64% of the fans going with the Green Wave, and the rest of us followed suit. So the Mayor's Cup's at stake. Station Camp shut out last week against Beach. Gallatin lost to Hendersonville, but put a lot of points up. So, how do you see this in playing out? Do you see this being a close game, or do you see Gallatin kind of controlling things, or what do you think?
I think Gallatin controls it. I think last week was pretty impressive considering how far along they are on the offense already. Station Camp, I know they played a Beach team that a lot of people think could compete for a state title, but I'm really impressed by Gallatin. I think they can make a lot of noise this year, and I think Michael Straub gets his win number 1 at Gallatin this week.
Both these teams are, we're rebuilding. I think Gallatin is a little bit further along than Coach Bain has at Station Camp. They just couldn't get anything really going offensively in that. But they get a Gallatin team that last week scored a bunch and gave up big plays. And I think Gallatin will do a lot to shore up that gigantic hole that they had in the middle of the field this week. And force Station Camp just to run the ball, which is what they want to do anyway. But I think that it's a little bit closer, but maybe Gallatin just pulls away late.
Yeah, one thing that surprised me last week in Gallatin's game against Hendersonville that I do not think that they will I think Gallatin may be the faster team here. Last week, Hendersonville, I believe, was the faster team, hitting them with several deep passes. Their successful runs were majority off tackle outside. And Station Camp is more of a pound you between the tackles kind of offense. And I think that favors Gallatin. And I really think the more this season goes on, that sophomore quarterback in Jackson Stroop is just going to get more comfortable. He had a couple bad throws early in that Hendersonville game, sailed a couple throws. But, man, he's got beautiful touch on his deep ball. And I really think that the Green Wave wins going away in this one.
All right. We talked about Lipscomb Academy and Saraland. Let's go ahead and pick this one. 86% siding with Lipscomb Academy. Cam and Scott, you've joined Reggie in taking the Mustangs. Joe and myself, we're going to take the home team in this one. So, Joe, I'm going to go to you. Why Saraland?
Yeah. I know Caleb Beasley's dad's not going to like me for this pick, but I actually had Lipscomb up till today, and then something just hit me. It's nothing against the Mustangs. I just think this Saraland team, with all the junior talent it has, with KJ Lacey at quarterback, Ryan Williams, they have another top 300 wide receiver. They have a top 300 defensive lineman leading their defense. I know they had a lot of shootouts last year, but when you are arguably the best team in Alabama, with a guy going to Alabama at wide receiver, a guy going to Texas at quarterback, in Lipscomb Academy, I know they played IMG last week. I need to see Deuce Knight had as good of a game as he could have against that IMG defense. I need to see somebody else offensively step up for me to be like, yeah, Lipscomb can beat a team like Saraland on the road. I think 8 to 9 hour bus ride, I'm assuming. It's gonna be tough. I think Saraland wins a close one. I think it's a great game, but I got Saraland.
Yeah, this is the kind of game that'll prepare them for the region play coming up. And I mean, like I said earlier, it's still kind of an extension of the preseason a little bit in that they've got to get some more reps for everybody as well and find their offensive rhythm. If they can do that in this game, very good chance to win. But I want to see that statement win first before they hit region play and not have to wait until then to get that big statement win.
Yeah, I didn't pick Lipscomb because of their offense. I picked Lipscomb because of their defense. And yes, you can speak Alabama wide receivers all you want. I'll speak a corner that's going to Tennessee, and his name is Caleb Beasley. He's going to follow that kid all over the field, and he's going to shut him down. No receptions last week against Caleb, against a top 5 team in the country in IMG. I just think that Lipscomb's defense travels, man. I mean, ultimately, that's what it comes down to. Offensively, yeah, they're not where they need to be yet, but I think they're going to get there. But defense is why I picked them to win this game.
Somehow I knew how you were going to approach that, Cam.
Surprise, surprise, surprise. I'm picking Lipscomb because of the line, actually, here. I think that, that Deuce Knight's not going to have to run for his life quite as much as he did last week. I do like the Mustangs to be able to get some front pressure on KJ Lacey. And if they don't, the pressure is going to be on Spillman and company. And you're right. I mean, Saraland is tough. They 6A title. They got Lacey, McWilliams. They've got a murderer's row. But Lipscomb, I think, comes out with a little edge to their step in this one after playing IMG. And I just like the Mustangs to pull away, although I do believe it will be close.
Last thing for me on this game, if Lipscomb wins, it's because Caleb Beasley locked down Ryan Williams. Simple as that. There's a reason Ryan Williams was the first ever sophomore Mr. Football winner in Alabama. Yep. Think of the players that come out of Alabama. That's impressive. So that's the matchup. I mean, I think other players are going to make plays. If Caleb can lock him down, Lipscomb wins this game.
Yep. All right. Go Vols.
NBA at Ensworth, Joe, you'll be over there on Friday. The fans in a close vote, 53.5% NBA. The rest of us are on the Tigers, the home team of this one. So let's break that one down real quick. Joe, why do you like Ensworth in this one?
For me, it's about who Ensworth has coming back. We know more names on this Ensworth defense specifically compared to who NBA is bringing back. Marcel Reed's not at NBA anymore. It's going to be tough for them to really break this Ensworth defense, and I think they win pretty convincingly at home.
Yeah, I don't think NBA has an answer for Ethan Nutley up front. Ultimately, I just like Ensworth to win. I thought they come out and Union City's a 1A team, but I thought that was a statement win for them because they didn't really let Union City even start to believe in that game. Which was huge for them. So, and NBA, they competed a little bit more than what I thought they would last week against Pearl. I thought Pearl would win by a couple scores, but they still have several questions that need to be answered before they're ready to roll.
I think defensively, NBA is doing pretty good. They managed to hold Pearl to 14 offensive points. But they could only manage a one touchdown against Pearl. I think that actually I like Mason Curtis in this game, the linebacker for Ensworth. I expect him to have a big game and lock down Brooklyn Davis. So, yeah, I'll go Tigers.
All right. Paige at Independence. Now, this is one of those Williamson County games that we thought might be pretty intriguing. 2/3 of the fans think it's Paige, and quite frankly, the rest of us do too. But what about Independence this game? What do you think these Eagles have to do to either make this competitive or win it? Anyone want to start? I don't care who it is.
Yeah.
Fine.
Well,
Oh, go ahead.
Let y'all find
Well,
it.
in my opinion, they're going to have to get more than one-dimensional. Last week they threw 2 passes. They had 11 passing yards on 2 of 5 passing. I think they're going to have to get more balance to face to defeat a Paige team that has a really good line. And if Paige gets out in front, I don't think they quite can make up the ground. And this is a team in Paige that had 4 pancake blocks, 3 by Jacob Rathbone. So you knew where I was going with this one.
You snuck that back in there. Nice job.
Yeah, I agree with Scott. I will say this: Paige has had issues with 6A teams when they played them the last couple of years. Last year, they were the favorite going against Indy, and they did not win that game. I think Indy's really rebuilding, though. Paige played a much closer game against Giles County last week than I thought they would, only picking up a 1-point win. But a win's a win. They found a bunch of points, and I think defensively they're going to be good enough to do what they need to do to win this game. And offensively, they're going to put up some points. So,
yeah, I think this is a tricky game for Paige, though. I ultimately picked the Patriots just because I was more confident in their abilities than Independence at this point of the season. But Paige has only beat Independence one time since Independence became a school in 2004, and that win was in 2005. So they've not beaten Independence in 18 years, which I know they've not played every year in those 18 years, but Paige typically struggles with Independence, and I think they could in this game. But ultimately, Paige's offensive line was the difference for me. I mean, between Rathbone and Ronan O'Connell, I mean, they're just maulers up front.
Riverdale on the road at Henry County, and 75.4% of the fans say it's the Warriors to go up there and get the win in Paris, and we all tend to agree. This is a good road test, though, for Riverdale because Henry County's a traditional power, still got a pretty strong team up there, and it'd be a good road trip for them to kind of get them ready for those region games.
Well, a name for Henry County to pay attention to is Javion Boyd. He had 2 long receptions last week and a 99-yard kickoff return. So they do have weapons up there in Paris. But I think it's just like you said, it's going to be a bigger test for the Warriors than they played against Smyrna. But I think Braden Graham and company are just going to be too strong for Henry County here.
yeah, Braden Graham had probably his best game at Riverdale last week since coming to the campus. Brock Montgomery had a really nice debut. I really like this Riverdale offense. I think they really clicked against Smyrna. I know kind of a revenge game for them. I think they go on the road to Henry County, and this is it's kind of a statement win to go on the road and win at Henry County this early in the year.
Yeah, I think this is a bigger test for the Warriors than last week against Smyrna. I think Smyrna is replacing a little bit more than what Henry County will be. But this Riverdale offense is explosive, man. It's going to be fun to watch, and it's going to be intriguing to see if they can go on the road and beat a good Henry County team, and if they can do so convincingly. The Warriors could be a player here.
Yep. Before we get to our last game, just a real quick note. I know some people were asking about some other games that are not on this list. If you don't see your game here on the show, Thursday morning we'll have our entire picks listed on our website, so check that out there about 9 o'clock or so Central Time. Last one, Pearl County CPA. It's our Spotlight Series game. Oh, yep, exactly. Well done, Scott. Pearl County CPA is our Spotlight Series game of the week, and this vote actually ended in a tie, but we're going to give them the home team just to be nice, and
because it's worth a point.
It's CPA across the board, except it's worth a point. Yeah, yeah, it's worth a point in high school. It's like 2.5 in the NFL, maybe 2 in college. I don't remember what the numbers are, but that's how close the vote was. They're all split between CPA and Pearl Cone, and this was a difficult game to pick just because I think Pearl Cone can really do a lot of damage here if they get things right and don't have a lot of pre-snap mistakes and turnovers and whatnot. But then again, CPA's defense, like they showed us last week, it's legit, and it is a very powerful force to to deal with for a lot of teams, especially going into the Lions Den. So you see all our picks on the screen. We're all on CPA except for Reggie, who decided he wanted to just do his own thing again this week. So, yeah. Oh, let's try that again.
It's
Pick,
one to go.
Reggie. Which one you gonna pick? Reggie. Which one you gonna pick? There he goes. He has chosen the Firebirds of Pearl Cone.
Kind of getting away from what he did last year. That would have been a CPA pick, no question.
Yeah, I was gonna say reverse psychology. He picked CPA when nobody picked CPA, and now he's doing the opposite.
Well, he's usually cat, but for some reason he went after the birds this time. Yeah, I don't know.
This should raise some eyebrows though, because remember he did pick that CPA win over Oakland last year.
Yep.
Guys, are we in trouble here?
We could be. We really could be.
For me, I said before the season, I think Pearl Cone loses one game all year. This is the game. I think CPA defensively, they have the talent to match up with those offensive weapons that Pearl Cone has. Last week, they showed me, especially with their front seven, just how they got pressure on George McIntyre constantly. This isn't going to be a blowout, though, I don't think. I think Pearl Cone has the weapons to make it close, but offensively, defensively, give me CPA in a 21-17 game.
Yeah, I mean that's where I'm at with it as well. And when I was thinking about this game, it ultimately I asked myself one question, and the answer was my most what I learned in week one, and that is Engel Martin is a top 3 coach in the state of Tennessee. My one question was, will CPA have a letdown? I don't believe so. I think he's too good of a coach to let that happen. If they do come out flat, Pearl Cone will win this game. I will say that because Pearl Cone will jump all over them. But I don't think that happens. I think CPA builds off of their second half last week against Brentwood Academy. They come out and they play a really good, sound defensively game. It's going to be intriguing to see how well Pearl Cone's defense plays against an offense, CPA, that's a little bit more confident anyway than that NBA team last week. So I see this one maybe like a 28-14, 28-21 type game.
Well, Pearl definitely has the horses to run here, but I think that CPA used their shutdown defense last week to hold BA to 54 second half yards. That's a stifling defense. Their defensive backfield, Jackson Matthews, Andre Evans, those are some of the few that can actually hold a team like Pearl in check. But I think this one comes down to, and gosh, I hope I got this right, Hudson Chance, the quarterback for CPA. I think that he gives them a dynamic as a running quarterback that can keep the chains moving, keep the clock moving, and keep Pearl's offense off the field. Grind out the yards, make throws when you have to. And I think that's the formula for beating Pearl, is just keeping that offense off the field.
Yeah, Joe, let's bring you back in for a second, because we saw Hudson Chance go in and get a lot of meaningful snaps in the second half. Brayton Streeter started that game, but Hudson Chance was in there in big moments.
Yeah, Hudson, I believe, led him on that game, the drive at the end that where they took the lead. He's dynamic. Want to see him throw the ball a little more, maybe. Brayton Streeter, he did well passing the ball. He's got a big arm, but that 2 quarterback system CPA runs, it seems like they always have a quarterback that could stretch the field or a quarterback that can run it down your throat. I agree with Scott. I think that's why they win this game.
All right.
Yeah, the kid looks like Tim Tebow out there.
A little bit, yeah. It does remind me of him, except not left-handed.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that's all the damage we can do for this week. I know it's still going to be pretty darn hot. So make sure you stay hydrated and stay cool, everybody. And then hopefully we'll see if more teams are going to push their kickoffs back to 7:30 or 8 o'clock. We should know about that either tomorrow or probably early Friday, honestly, because
and we'll try to retweet
all that.
Yeah, we'll try to retweet that as often as possible, or as often as things come across. So, follow our Twitter page so you can be up to date on some of those notifications and things like that. We've been doing it pretty much all day as they've been coming through, actually for the last couple of days. So, we'll do our best to pass that information along.
Yeah, please follow all socials for updates on games Friday night. I will not be at a game Friday night, but follow my social. I will be updating multiple games. I'll have 3 or 4 going at the same time.
Yep. And then our scoreboard show Saturday morning, 9 a.m. And we will have all those highlights and scores from around the area as well. So make sure and stay tuned for that. Guys, let's get out of here. It's been a good show. And want to thank all of you for watching and appreciate you taking some time out of your week with us. So for Scott, for Cam, for Joe, I'm Chris. We're out. See you Friday. Stay cool and have a great rest of the week, everybody.
Shout out to Greg